Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Historian channel. I am your host, Flynn Gibbon. Today, we're going to discuss the Detroit Lions, basically a preview into the offseason that's going to occur. The draft, who they might target free agency wise, what happened this season, who they drafted last year, and you know who might be an upcoming star on this team. So let's start off with let's start off with who they drafted. So they drafted Panay Sewell in the first round. Looked like a pretty good pick. They don't know if he's the best tackle in the draft. He hasn't really shown that, but still a pretty good pick. They built a pretty good offensive line, and their next two picks were defensive linemen, which they're more like run stuffers. But they have some pass rush, but not a lot, and that helps the run defense. So if you look at both sides of the ball, Lions, they could run the ball pretty well and they can stop the run pretty well. And then they got Melifonwu, who it's not a bad pick where they got him. More of a tall, lanky corner. Can't say if that's been a great pick or not, but at the time, I don't see a problem third round. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown was a fourth rounder. He produced really well down the stretch this year. Looks like a great pick. And they put him all over the field, and he's one of the best playmakers. So, you know, they really used him well. Like, I expect him to get better. I just don't know if he's going to be used in the same way, since I think the Lions will improve the receiving core and the playmakers on that team. Derek Barnes, so and then seventh round running back, which he played a little bit. Like I say, right, the Lions drafted overall pretty good. I don't know if there's any superstars in here, but still pretty good. So let's go with the season. Um, They started in San Francisco. This is a game that the San Francisco just dominated early on, jumping out to a 31-10 lead. And then it was just the Detroit Lions comeback, basically, and very close call for the 49ers. 49ers were heavily favorites going into the game, I'm sure. Uh, just trying to remember from back then. Everyone was expecting the Detroit Lions to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, at least maybe the worst NFC team, which ultimately came out to be. And then the 49ers, wild speculation. A lot of people thought maybe they were an average team. I assumed they were going to be one of I would put them as the fourth best NFC team before the year. And they made it to the NFC Championship, obviously. So, Lions started 0-1, and then they went to Green Bay. They played good first half. So they had a good four quarters in a row where they played pretty well. And they just couldn't do anything in the second half. And Green Bay pulled away. Obviously another team, first round bye, so another good team they played. And didn't win, didn't get completely destroyed, but just couldn't play complete games. Then they had a game where they played pretty well against Baltimore. And if this is the game people remember, they lost off a 66-yard field goal by Justin Tucker. That's kind of the story of the season for the Lions. A lot of close games like this. Just couldn't pull away. Early on, Jared Goff wasn't playing well. They couldn't really get anything going. Eventually, that changed a little bit, but as you can see, no touchdowns for Jared Goff, and they fall. They played pretty well defensively. You can't blame what they did. I think it was just a great play by Lamar at the end of the game, get him in range. Then they go to Chicago. They had their chances again. I think this was a bunch of like red zone drives that they just didn't get anything out of. Um, let's go into the stats really quick. So, and then look, statistically, Goff did pretty well. Sacked. I know he probably fumbled in this game. 3 fumbles, actually. 3-2 loss. That's what I kind of remember this game. I think this was Fields' first start. No, maybe it was the second because I think Dawn got hurt week 2. Still, didn't really. They gave up a lot of rushing yards. I can't say it wasn't like dreadful run defense, but it wasn't great this game. And Mooney had a big game. But yeah, another game they competed, could have possibly won, but ultimately didn't. And then they had a Minnesota game. Both teams played close games most of the year. It's not Minnesota, but yeah, Minnesota played another close game. Their whole first 12 games were really close. And in Detroit for this game, Goff, no touchdowns. They actually picked off Kirk Cousins, which was one of his few interceptions the first early part of the year. First 3 quarters, actually, I should say. They shut down Madison. It was really just a one big drive at the end by Kirk Cousins, a great drive by him. He led, got him in field goal range, and they kicked the game-winning field goal, putting Detroit to 0-5. And then they had the Bengals game. This is the first game where it's like, okay, they didn't play well. Bengals kind of just dominated them. You can look at the stats. Joe Burrow, 3 touchdowns. Goff, no touchdowns. And, to have no touchdowns in a game like this, I don't know who had their touchdowns, probably a rushing one. Yeah, it was. Usually when it gets to that point, they just prevent so you can get maybe a touchdown or a lot of yards. That wasn't even the case for the Lions in this game. Rams. This is a team they actually competed with. Look at the score. So Lions were actually up at one point. Went to half pretty close, 16-17. And then got a lead again. And then the Rams was dominated. This is a Super Bowl team, back-to-back Super Bowl opponents. And they at least competed in this one. Revenge game for Goff and obviously Stafford. Goff 2 interceptions, probably a big difference in why they lost. While Stafford threw 3 touchdowns and no picks. Again, Goff is going to be a question. Is he going to be their guy going to next year? They draft someone. They got the number 2 pick, but is their quarterback going to be there worth picking at that spot? Apologize for keeps picking the wrong game. Okay, so this is where they got destroyed. I think it might have been even 44-0. But either way, Lions didn't do anything until the garbage time. And this is kind of the Eagles starting to learn. I don't blame so much on the Lions. They were not prepared for what the Eagles started to do in this game. This is kind of the start of their winning streak. And a lot of bad teams they beat, obviously, but they started to really heavily run the ball. If you look, 71 yards for Hurts, 60 for Scott, 57 for Howard, Gainwell 27, Rager even 21. And the Lions couldn't run the ball. They got out of their game plan because they got down. And not much going in the passing game. Completions there, but not a lot of yards. And the Eagles came away with a win, So a little mixed here result-wise, a couple blowouts now against some playoff teams. Then they played the Steelers after the bye. This is the game, Roethlisberger had COVID. So, Mason Rudolph played. So then you can say, oh, maybe the quarterback competition, maybe it leans to the Lions in this game. Either way, Goff sacked 4 times. Both teams had a chance to win this game in regulation and in overtime, but especially the Steelers, they had the fumble by by the rookie tight end, by Freiermuth. So, again, tie game, I guess, is better than not losing, but got the tie, against a team that actually ultimately will make the playoffs. And this was a deciding factor. If they beat the Steelers here, they probably don't make the playoffs. Then they go to the Browns, close game. This is Baker Mayfield, who had an awful game. Some awful interception. It wasn't a completely awful game. They had Tim Boyle this game, the Lions, and in his first start, did not play well. They ran the ball well, which, Browns are very talented. So, to play a close game wasn't bad on their part. Could have won the game, actually. They just had some better quarterback play. Then they went to Chicago. Now Chicago came to Detroit. This was the Thanksgiving game. Again, another close game. Lost on a game-winning field goal with, time remaining, 28 yards. Goff, this is probably Goff's best game up to this point in the season. And then you don't play for the Bears. Played all right. I think he had an interception in the end zone or something like that, where they could have got more points. Either way, another close game. Could have won this game. Then they finally get their chance. They finally win a game against the Minnesota Vikings. This time, their touchdown at the last seconds of the game. 0 second left. Ross St. Brown, sorry. 11-yard touchdown catch in the end zone. Still kind of don't understand what I understand the defense they did, but why they played so far back on some short routes, like a curl route by Brown, St. Brown. Don't understand. Kirk Cousins played pretty well. They didn't get an okay rushing game. The Lions had an okay rushing game. But Goff 3 touchdowns, did what he needed to in this game. And they finally get a win, putting the Vikings to 5-7, kind of changing their outlook of their season. Even though they had a great game the following week against the Packers. Either way, or maybe it was the Packers before this. Either way, the Vikings had some momentum at one point at this point in the season, and then they just fell apart at the end of the season. This game, Denver controlled. It was somewhat close early on, but Denver was a better team, way more talented. Denver's just not a team that's going to put teams away usually. Ultimately, did in this game. And Denver could shut down the run. And they're really good passing, pass defense with all those corners they got and safeties. And it just was not a great day in the office for the Lions. They then play Arizona, one of the bigger upsets of the year. Wasn't so shocked because if you watched last year's game, same two teams. I know Stafford was on one of the side of the ball, but the Detroit Lions, 3 interceptions of Murray that game. They completely shut down the Cardinals. And this game, first half, especially maybe first 3 quarters, Lions just shut down everything. The Cardinals, they could not stay on the field, and the Lions could stay on the field and had long drives. They weren't easy drives either. They're somewhere 90 yards and stuff. And ultimately, look, I know Kyler Murray didn't have the interception was kind of odd. You expecting either the receiver come back or something, but I think it was A.J. Green who threw it to. But Gall played really well. 5 incompletions, 3 touchdowns. And they ran the ball decently well with Craig Reynolds. And the Cardinals couldn't do anything, really. And then they got some touchdowns later in the game, but it was too late. Didn't really matter. And this was a turning point for the Cardinals, really, in their season. I know they just a couple losses, and then they had this shocking loss in Detroit. And they ultimately went like 11-5, so sorry, probably 11-6. I'm thinking of 16 game schedule. Then Atlanta, I'm like, okay, they should be able to play Atlanta's tough. Talent level is not that big of a difference. I know record is, but I don't think Atlanta's that much better than Detroit. And ultimately played out that way. I mean, Tim Boyle played this game. He 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And Ryan, was okay. They actually didn't run the ball too well. And either way, either team could have won this game. Lions kicked the field goal late. They just never were able to get the ball and score. Win the game. So they go to 2-12-1. Get two more games left. They go to Seattle. This game they got completely destroyed. Could not stop the Seahawks. By the first game of the year where they just could not stop the passing game at all. Russell Wilson just had his way. 4 touchdowns. Probably best game of the year. Had a pretty good stretch down the last 2 weeks. Ran the ball well. Penny even had some big runs. 37-yarder, 2 touchdowns. Dwayne Eskridge had a 30-yard run. Travis Homer did some stuff. They gave the receiver the ball. They tried to find ways to get their playmakers the ball. Lockett would have run. Metcalf would have run. Even though they only had Metcalf had 9 catches. Lockett only had 3 on 3 targets. But either way, Detroit couldn't run the ball this game, and did not go well for them. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good run. And then they played Green Bay. Green Bay played the starters about 28 minutes of the game. Maybe the defense, they played a little bit longer than that, but either way, they competed with them, competed with the Packers, and then Packers pulled the starters out. And it was a decent game still by last 2 minutes. Only the Lions had the lead, and then Love threw 2 interceptions down the stretch. One being I believe a pick six. Could be wrong on that, but let me make sure. No, there was no pick six, but either way, 2 picks. Lions ultimately win this game. And because Jacksonville, if Detroit lost their game and Jacksonville won, they would have been the first pick, but both teams won the last week. So, either way, that is a preview of the season. So, Goff's final numbers 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. It didn't turn the ball over too much. Still threw almost 20 touchdowns for an offense that didn't do much. And he didn't play every game. Played 14 games. And, obviously didn't finish all 14, but either way, that's his numbers. And then Boyle, 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. So same offense. Goff played much better. Now let's look at they're keeping their coaches, most of their coaches. I don't know if they're still figuring out the offensive coordinator thing and play calling, because that ultimately did change in the middle of the year since Anthony Lynn basically got fired, and then Campbell took over play calling. So a lot of mock drafts obviously putting Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan guy, going to a Michigan football team in the NFL. Makes some sense. Need pass rush up. Other things they could look at, maybe even later in the draft, is not, I wouldn't say second overall. Though Kyle Hamilton is a prospect, they could go there. So they do need safety help. Corner help. They got one corner who, had 6 interceptions, but we still don't know if Jeff Okudah can play or not, really. Hasn't really shown it. If you trust Okudah, then okay, you got 2 outside corners. But that's a lot of speculation, and there's nothing really to prove that being the case. And the Lions won't have another pick, I believe, until the second round. Either way, it's probably they do got the Rams pick. I forgot from the Matthew Stafford trade, so they'll have some picks. This is more like a early second round pick, last pick of the first round. This could be a quarterback, honestly, if you think about it. You still can have the 5th-year option, and exactly, and then this mock draft has him picking Malik Willis. I think he's probably going to go earlier in this, but it's very early. It's hard to go with prospects right now because so much can change. Again, I don't see him getting Evan O'Neal or another tackle. They could go with Thibodeaux, but I think Hutchinson makes some more sense. Offensive line, they don't really need too much. They do need a coverage linebacker eventually. I don't know if they're going to get in the draft, but Lions are in a decent spot since you got the Bears rebuilding kind of, new coach and all that, and you got the Vikings kind of following suit, even though their team, we don't know what it's going to look like. It could be similar to last year, but new coach and staff at least. So Detroit keeping their coach and staff for the most part, and then you're building the team. You already started. You're 1 year ahead of the other two teams from that standpoint. Don't have the quarterback, but if you can build the team, then get the quarterback, or do it at the same time, or whatever the case is, I don't see them getting a veteran quarterback. I don't see, they have Jared Goff too, so it's not like I see them going for another slight upgrade, maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo or something. Doesn't make too much sense. They're gonna try to build through the draft. That's how I would do it, and then I don't see Green Bay really rebuilding, but they have the still up in the air of that situation. And if just say that happens, the Lions could be competing next year for that division. That's how wide open that division could be if obviously Jordan Love becomes the starter and they trade Dan Rodgers. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, that puts Detroit in a position to compete for the division. I don't know if they're playoff caliber, but someone's going to have to make it, and it'd be wide open at that point who would make it. I appreciate you listening. This is the Detroit Lions preview, off-season preview. We're going to be doing, the Texans next week, and then Jets and Giants. We'll figure it out. But Friday this week, though, we're going to preview the Super Bowl, and then we'll review the Super Bowl Tuesday following the Super Bowl, and then we'll go into some off-season stuff. Again, I appreciate you listening and watching. Have a great day.